Can I please have your attention? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the KAS-SAIIA Careers Event. My name is Rendani Chitangana and I have the unique privilege of serving as your program director today. This time last year, I was actually hosting the careers event with my fellow scholars, so it's a full circle moment for me. Now, the contemporary world is marked by transition, disruption, and uncertainty, particularly climate change, geopolitical fragmentation, rapid technological advancement, democratic contestation, and more. Now, this event seeks to help humanities and social sciences graduates position themselves within this changing landscape. It also seeks to demonstrate that there is no singular pathway for humanities graduates, and that interdisciplinary thinking is becoming increasingly important within traditional and emerging career spaces. Last but not least, the event is intended to inform students about the KAS-SAIIA Scholarship, an opportunity for postgraduate students to advance their studies while also contributing to policy research and analysis. Now, to officially start the program, I will now hand over to Elizabeth Strulis, the Chief Executive of SAIIA, to give her opening remarks. Please help me give her a warm welcome.
So, good afternoon, everybody. It's really wonderful to see you all here. There was a buzz out there. I hope you all got all the information, or at least the good part of the information that is going to feed into your thinking about your careers as you complete your degrees or you complete your postgraduate degrees. This has now become, as I say, I think every year, pretty much an entrenched tradition at SAIIA. I think it's been going for longer than many of you have been around on this planet. But the sad thing about that observation is that I can remember how far back this event goes and when it was started. And it was started really a couple of years after the start of the KAS-SAIIA Scholarship, which is a partnership with the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, which was started in 1999. We have, as of the end of 2025, apparently 103 alumni who've gone through the ranks. Some of them are here today. You will hear from some of them also on the panel. And more importantly, the 5 young people who will be graduating at the end of this year are also here. They will be joining the cohort of alumni at the end of this year. But they have been the ones who've actually put this event together. So while there will be an opportunity to thank them at the end, I probably won't be the one thanking them. So I just want to make a point. All of them, I can see some of them here. Some of them are probably over there. I can make out a couple. But really, I think, can we please give them a round of applause right at the outset? You will hear more about the KAS-SAIIA Scholarship. That wasn't my task to do that, but really to welcome you, to also just make a couple of observations about this KAS-SAIIA partnership, which goes beyond the scholarship. We have worked together with the foundation over many years on many topics, from foreign policy to work on futures and regional observatories, to work on G20 and global governance. We've also had the opportunity to work with other regional offices of the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, both across the continent and in other parts of the world. And I think it's been really a very rich engagement on all the issues that the South African Institute of International Affairs focuses on. I think many of you know us. Many of you are from the international relations field, or more broadly, the humanities. The Witsies here probably, I hope, have visited our library upstairs. When I was a student here, it was the only library I came to. It was really quite a cozy one where you could always access books rather than have to book them well in advance to get in those days you used to get the hard copies. I know this might be foreign to you right now, but but this careers evening came out of a recognition that it was so important to create a forum such as this, where students from the humanities had the opportunity to be exposed to the kinds of careers that are available to them. Because, you know, the humanities sometimes get a bad rap. And I don't think it's a fair rap. And I think at this particular juncture, where you have Anthropic telling us that Claude may be sentient, that Claude may have feelings, that we're asking philosophers in a really interesting piece in the Financial Times a couple of, I think over the weekend, sort of Anthropic wanted to have this philosopher come and speak to them and discuss whether what we required was a new model of metaphysics that took into account artificial intelligence. I think at this particular juncture, the work, the studies, the knowledge in the humanities is more important than ever. It's not only about the fact that humanities, I think, should be the foundation of any degree, because they teach you about the soft connective tissue that makes societies. But more importantly, they're fundamentally a reflection of our humanity, hence humanities, right? And one of the points in this interesting article in the Financial Times, this philosopher says, coming out of a discussion with Anthropic staff, she says, "It is simply untrue to say that computers think. Humans think using computers." And the humanities, I think, is fundamentally about what is happening here, more than engineering, which is about mathematics and geometry and things like that. All of these have come from humans. But as I said, the soft connective tissue, what makes societies tick, are all the things that we do in the humanities. And so, as a fellow humanities traveler, I'm very pleased to see this room full of young people in the humanities fields. Don't let anybody tell you that because you didn't do STEM, you are less human or less equal, because you're not. Because the only time they will realize how important the humanities and people who have studied humanities are is when you guys are no longer there. Okay. Can you imagine a world where we only have, I'm probably going to get into trouble for this, but where we only have engineers and mathematicians and astronomers? I think the world would be much poorer. So go people. Anyway, enjoy today.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for your opening remarks, and especially for highlighting the enduring relevance of the humanities and the social sciences. We will now move on to the second segment of the program. I will now call on Dr. Holger Dix to give the KAS address. Please help me welcome Dr. Dix.
Is it on? Okay, perfect. Yeah, warm welcome on behalf of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. this yearly event in cooperation with SAIIA is one I'm always very much looking forward to. And it's not only because I like to be with young people in the room. I like to feel the vibes, good, the good moves from from the younger generation. But it always reminds me times when I was young. And there were two key things I always remember when I'm coming back to SAIIA. This event. The one is the feeling I had when I had to tell my father that I wanted to study political science. And he was more a technician and he couldn't understand it. I ended up convincing him that it was a good idea. And the second moment was when I was about to finish my studies. And I was in a situation where I now had to find a job. And what you just said, the question is, if you're studying humanities, you do not really know what your job will be. You have a lot of qualifications that are extremely important, but you cannot guarantee that you get this job, this enterprise or there. So you need to be open. And when I think about it today, I would say that was one of the most fascinating times I had. I was nervous, but it was fascinating to do this step from being a student and going into work and experiencing this new field of work. I entered then the political foundation, the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. Yeah, so I envy you a little bit when I see you're there at this stage now where you do not really know what's going to happen in 1 or 2 years, but it is fascinating. It should inspire you more than it should, create a feeling of, fear. Now, the Konrad Adenauer Foundation that I'm representing here, together with my two colleagues, Nathan Bokoma is over there. You probably met him. Tawanda Matema is still outside doing his work, yeah, selling the Konrad Adenauer Foundation outside. That's good. So the Konrad Adenauer Foundation that we are representing here is a German political foundation which invests a lot in promoting democracy in Germany and worldwide. And as Elizabeth already mentioned, so we have a long-term partnership with SAIIA. And what we are doing here today is part of this broader cooperation which includes working on policies, on foreign affairs, but then we have this scholarship program together. And I mean, you just mentioned the figure of 103 alumni that we have already produced. And I'm pretty sure that at least 100 of them have a successful professional career. We're following that a little bit. I think the highest South African alumni or the highest placed is the commissioner of the African Union. So you have produced a commissioner of the African Union. I hope I'm not raising the expectations now of all these. There are other good jobs. So we are really happy that we are doing that together. It was already mentioned that part of our cooperation is these scholarships. We're giving away like 5 per year, 4, 5. And the next application is open from today on, I think. Is that correct? I think, yeah. So if you are interested in two things, if you're interested in getting funding from the Konrad Adenauer Foundation and learn to work very hard at SAIIA, then that it will be a good thing for you to apply for a scholarship, the KAS-SAIIA scholarship. So I'm really happy that so many of you are here. We just had when we met in the room, those speakers here met in the room a few minutes ago. I told them I have the impression that again female participants are a large majority. Asking myself, what does it mean with regard to South Africa, society, and the future of South Africa? I think it's a good thing. But I want to encourage my brothers not to give up and not to feel too much under. And there will be a place for men in future as well. I'm confident. Yeah. So I'm really happy. Thank you to our current scholars who are always very active when it comes to the preparation of this event. I'm happy to see some of the former scholars, the alumni here. Thank you to those who accepted to come on the panel and discuss with these young people. I always have the impression that it's very, very inspiring for young people to see what you can do with your degree and how you can be successful. And all those people who are here now, they have started a successful professional career. So thank you very much again. Enjoy SAIIA, enjoy this event and participate. And then whenever you're interested in Konrad Adenauer Foundation, we have a very good website. Nathan is making sure that we have a very good website. You can see what other activities the Konrad Adenauer Foundation offers. We are very much into civic education, political training with parliaments, with governments, with non-governmental organizations. So feel free to contact KAS whenever you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dix. Being a recipient of the KAS-SAIIA Scholarship, I can guarantee you that it's worthwhile. It is now my pleasure to welcome Dr. Ekeminia Basi Eyita Okon to deliver the keynote address. I'm just going to read her bio. Dr. Eyita Okon holds a PhD in international relations from the University of the Witwatersrand. She has also obtained her master's, her honors, and her Bachelor of Arts degrees at the same university, with specialization in international relations and media studies. In addition, she has attained a non-degree exchange program certificate from the Elliott School of International Affairs, George Washington University. I'm not even done. Prior to joining the Wits School of Governance, Eyita Okon was a postdoctoral research fellow at the Center for China-Africa Studies at the University of Johannesburg. At the center, she organized, chaired, and participated in high-level public discussions on pertinent development issues to Africa and its international relations, engaged in fundraising activities, and produced research papers and op-eds. While completing her graduate studies at the Wits IR department, Dr. Eyita Okon lectured an array of courses like international political economy. I was actually one of her students in second year. Transnational issues in international politics, regional studies, Africa, theory and research methods in international relations, and introduction to data science. She has served as a guest and substitute lecturer for the intermediate IPE course, both at undergraduate and postgraduate levels at the Department of Political Science, University of Cape Town. Last but not least, she has and continues to serve as both internal and external examiner for research reports and dissertations for Wits University, the University of the Free State, and the Northwest University. Please help me welcome the astounding Dr. Eyita Okon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I see some familiar faces here. Welcome, the head of SAIIA, the head of the KAS, colleagues, academics, researchers, future leaders in the room, all protocol duly observed. As the colleague has rightly said, my name is Ekeminia Basi Eyita Okon. And fun fact about me, I always, wherever I am, in whatever school or department I am, I always lobby for an award for the longest name ever, because it is definitely, as you can see, usually, but I still haven't gotten any award. I get acknowledgement, but not an award, so I'm working on it. So today's the point of this event is basically to talk you through what to do with a degree in humanities and social sciences. And having been a lecturer for so long, I have had students ask me, and usually around second year, early third year, when the reality hits that you're no longer a baby in first year, and you're now becoming that adult that people look up to. And then the question comes, so what do we do with a BA degree? What do we do with a humanities degree? What do we do with a social science degree? And you can see the confusion on the face, because at the moment, as you're all aware, there are lots of conversation, lots of investment, a lot of push towards STEM, making it seem like a degree in humanities and social sciences is becoming obsolete. something of a legacy that we will think about or look at in a museum in 10 years from now. But I'm here to tell you that's not the truth. We are very relevant and will continue to remain relevant. So we are existing in a paradox today. And the paradox is that we are seeing a rise in technology. Workflows are being automated. We use AI to produce workflows, to produce document, wink, wink, students. We also use it to produce essays. And you submit the essays, we know it's okay. And so we're seeing we're seeing how AI is taking over. We're hearing talks. If you followed the World Economic Forum, was it interview with Elon Musk recently, talking about the future prospects of robots and machines and what they are going to do and how they're going to replace humans and how they're going to take over certain kinds of fields and jobs. And that basically sends fear or sensation of fear around, because young people begin to wonder, but I don't have a degree in STEM, so where does that leave me 10 years from now, 8 years from now, 20 years from now? The difference between us and machines, or a degree in humanities and social sciences, is that we have the ability, whether or not the STEM guys want to trivialize this, we have the ability to analyze complex human systems, all right? And so we also have the ability to ask probing ethical questions, which are relevant. We have the ability to synthesize cultural dynamics and ask critical questions, as well as analyze or articulate clear strategies in how to overcome different problems or complex issues, and also problem solve. These are basically skill sets that machines don't have. They require humans. They require a degree in humanities. They require an understanding of humanities and social sciences to synthesize across having machines and what they do or what they're capable of, and being able to integrate them into society. And that gap is where we feature. So you see, we will not be in a museum anytime soon. Okay. The human advantage in what we call the big data era or the AI era is something that we must look into. When you look into the world of work at the moment, again, we are seeing the prevalence and the push towards robotics. Robotics have been introduced in primary schools, in high schools, basically to equip young students or young people on how to use these machineries, okay? But what becomes priceless here is the skill often deemed to be a soft skill, the skill of discernment. Yes, robots can say, there is X problem, how do we produce machines to solve the problem? But in order to integrate those machines into society, you need someone who is able to think critically about the role of those machines, to ask critical questions on who are these machines being created for? Who is being left behind? How does that undermine or further cultural, sociocultural dynamics, socioeconomic dynamics? How does that undermine the labor value chain, and so on and so forth? So humanities becomes critical. Artificial intelligence, big data gives us data. Data in itself gives us a pattern, tells us what's going on. We can see the numbers, but for us to make sense of the data, we need someone to interpret the data. We need someone to contextualize the data in order to make sense. So it's okay to have a spreadsheet of numbers. It's okay to have a whole database. But if we want to understand what is the nature of crime stats in South Africa, despite intervention that has taken place, we need someone who's able to look at that spreadsheet, analyze it, synthesize it, and contextualize it to the context of South Africa or Gauteng or whatever case that you're studying. So we have contextual intelligence. That's something that AI doesn't have or machines don't have. Now, when a machine looks at a diplomatic conflict, an economic shift, for instance, or a social movement, what it sees is patterns and matches the patterns. And what we often tease the positivist scholars who are very, and how they do research, to say, you go into research to identify patterns. You already have a predetermined notion of what resource curse is. You have a predetermined notion of what tension is. You have a predetermined notion of what a failing state is. And so you look for patterns and you tick box and you say research done. Okay, so AI machines do that. They look for patterns. But for us to make sense of it, when a social scientist sees the same things, a diplomatic conflict, an economic shift, a social movement, what we see is not just pattern. We see historical precedents. We see power dynamics, we see cultural nuances, we see economic pressures, and we're able to understand and unpack how these patterns began. We can process trace all the way to the beginning on how these patterns began, how they've evolved, how we can intervene, what needs to be done to intervene. Imagine the current diplomatic spat between South Africa and Nigeria, and we had to send machines to do the job. Okay. Okay. Furthermore, we also consider the issue of ethical framing. We ask ethical questions. Even though for the STEM guys, they are also important. We are not undermining the importance of STEM, but we're saying that there is also space for HSS, for humanities and social sciences. As I mentioned earlier, we can ask, can we build so-and-so to fix so-and-so problem? Can we build cutting edge cameras to take better videos? I mean, I've seen these days that cameras are no longer what they used to look like. They are now glasses. And so when you want to make an advert, someone's just moving around around this particular product and voila, there's something being produced. But it needs someone who is able to understand positions, lighting, how to tell a story in order to use the same instrument to produce a video that would tell a story and sell a product. So machines can ask, or for the STEM guys, they can ask, can you build this? Can we automate this? But with humanists, we ask critical questions. Should we build this in the first place? We talk about the importance of robotics, but then when you're thinking about an Africa that has a population bulge, are we to copy and paste? When it comes to automating labor force or automating workforce, or should we contextualize? Should we pick what is necessary and contextualize for the purpose of our reality? Reality being we have a huge young population who need to be employed. So these questions are critical questions that we get to ask. We also get to ask, yes, we're in the era of big data. Yes, we're in the era of surveillance, but whose privacy has been undermined here? Issues of surveillance, capitalism, data privacy have emerged, and how are these things being protected, especially when you have a continent full of young people? So we ask critical questions that have impact on human dignity and governance-related issues. In boardrooms, in international bodies, in think tanks and public institutions, your critical inquiry, which is your ability to spot logical fallacies, expose hidden biases, and read between the lines, is not necessarily a soft skill. It actually is a hard, critical, important, indispensable skill that is needed. Beyond this, the question is, how do you then translate what you learn in a lecture hall into a career path? And when I get this question from students, it's often, oh, but you know, when you study history, you become a historian. When you study political science, you work in government. When you study philosophy, those guys are expected to remain in the academy. But hey, here we are. And I often say to students, when you think of your degree in the humanities and social sciences, don't picture it in this rigid pathway where if you did history, therefore you are going to be a historian. More think about it in terms of what skill sets have you gathered over the years, because those skill sets are what you need to thrive in the workforce or in the labor market. So what do we mean? So think about think tanks or research institutes. We've got SAIIA, we've got PARI being Public Affairs Research Institute. We've got the Institute of Global Dialogue, the New South Institutes, and organizations like that. They hire policy analysts, governance researchers, political analysts, data analysts, who are equally in the humanities as well, and are able to take these numbers and make sense of it and contextualize it to our reality and tell a coherent and logical story about what is happening, the challenges we're experiencing, and how to address them. Beyond this, in the corporate and consulting sector as well, organizations like the Big Four, the PwC, Deloitte, and KPMG, and so on, McKinsey, the BCG, they also hire social science graduates into change management, strategy, ESG. Someone was talking about energy transition earlier. This is a big development agenda for our century or for our era at the moment. And it's important because you're able to then understand the issues that are emerging and contextualize them because they work across the African continent and beyond. And so what works for one country in the African continent is not the same modality that works for another. And so the importance of HSS graduates cannot be undermined. Tech and user experience, Google, Meta, Microsoft do not just hire engineers, they also hire HSS graduates because we're able to provide different actor strategists, ethics advisors, content designers, and so on and so forth, as well as the very famous one, development and non-governmental organizations, the UNDP, the African Development Bank, Gift of the Givers, and so on and so forth. They're always looking for M&E specialists, project coordinators, community engagement officers, and so on and so forth. So when you write your CVs, pitch the competencies, the skills that you have gotten over the years, as opposed to say, I did a BA degree and that's it. What skill did you gain? Over the course of your degree, you write essays, which force you to think critically, which forces you to write. I know that what the degree does, it trains you in academic writing, but I promise you, there's other types of writing, policy writing, blog posts, opinion pieces. Margaret and I were talking about an article that she's just finished editing for publication. And I just take the opportunity to advertise that you could write opinion pieces and publish them. SAIIA does that really well as Olam, and she's one of on a panel. So research is important, thinking is important, analysis is important, and these skills are not soft, they are important skills, bridging that gap between STEM and our reality in contemporary times. Standing here today in an event being hosted by SAIIA, I think it's important to equally anchor this discussion in the African context and in the South African context as well. For instance, take the global climate crisis, the energy transition. We do have the technology, the renewable energy technologies, they do exist, right? But how do we implement a just transition that ensures that it is actually just, not just across the labor dynamics, but also in terms of access to energy? And the question in South Africa has largely been, when it comes to energy, is one of a reliability issue and how to green the technologies. In other parts of the continent, the question is actually access. Where do we get this energy from? And what role can green energy play? So these are important questions. And who asked this question? HSS graduates. Okay. Consider multilateral diplomacy, South Africa's engagement within the G20, the BRICS Plus, the African Union, SADC. All of these require sharp analytical minds to draft position papers, to negotiate trade terms, as well as evaluate global power shift. So how do you take this foundation and turn it into a resilient, future-proof career? I want to leave you with 4 practical strategies that you could start implementing today. First, you need to build a hybrid skill set. Just because you're in the humanities doesn't mean you can't learn anything else. We are in the era of big data. Learn how to work with data. Basic skill sets on how to use Excel, how to, when you get a spreadsheet of numbers, what do you do with it? Use basic trend graphs. Univariate analysis, bivariate analysis, being able to put 2 variables together, analyze them, and make sense of what this means. Try to do that in your essays that you submit for your respective courses. That way you're able to, situate yourself and understand how data works, because this is the era of big data in the first place. So build hybrid skill sets, that's 1. 2, focus on portfolios, not just resume. The market is competitive. The job market is highly competitive, and do not necessarily rely only on your academic transcript. Please put your work out there. You have a thought, you're not sure of yourself, there is SAIIA. I mean, we always lean towards SAIIA because it's international relations, but there are other avenues. A Daily Maverick, again, I'm going to use the opportunity to center Olam here. You write opinion pieces, it could be you, it could be a group of friends, on a topic that is pressing. Today, we're dealing with migration issues, which has led to diplomatic spat and foreign policy issues. We are dealing with energy issues, governance issues, corruption, security cluster is a mess. SADC is dealing with the situation in the DRC as well as Mozambique. We don't know if, I mean, depends on how you think about it. SAMI DRC versus SAMIM, did it fail? Was it successful? There's so many issues out there. And if there's something that, you know, that you find yourself acquainted with, or you like, or you want to discuss, write an 800 word opinion piece. I almost said 800 Rand. So you write an 800 word opinion piece and put it out there. Let people engage with your thought. It's all a learning process. And I know there are mean people out there who come for you, but that's not the point. The point is to get your work out there, see how people engage with it. And it's something you can start doing even if you don't have your honors degree as yet. So second thing, focus on portfolio, not just resumes. Third, cultivate radical curiosity. Okay, the world is changing very fast, might I add. And so it has no time or no space for static knowledge. Knowledge is continually evolving, things are continually changing, and so do yourself the favor of always keeping yourself in the loop to understand the latest trends and how to learn the latest skills. Finally, network with purpose, okay? Attend events like this. This is where you meet people who have been where you are, who could link you up. You build relationships, you attend other conferences, you write papers. I see that there are often symposiums. I'm not sure if it's only for postgrad, but I'm sure there are undergrad ones where you could write paper and present, do a poster presentation as well. So put yourself out there, put your work out there, and let people begin to engage with it. Build relationships. We also have SAPS, the South African Association of Political Sciences. There are mentors within organizations like that. Put yourself out there and build network. So as I draw to a close, I'm going to leave you with some final thought, which is basically saying to you that humanities and social sciences, irrespective of what you hear and how the world focuses on the importance of STEM, we are relevant, you are relevant, because we listen deeply, we ask the critical questions, we are built or ingrained with skill sets that require us to understand the context, the one that is changing so quickly, so very fast. And I hope that you do take in and absorb all that you get to learn in here today and utilize these skills outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ayita Khan, for your powerful address. A key takeaway for me is that despite the increasing use of technologies such as AI and machine learning, the power of the humanities and social sciences student lies in their ability to interrogate, discern, and analyze. Let's give her another round of applause. We're going to transition into the next segment, but before we do, please give us a few minutes to just set up. Thank you. Can I please have your attention? We will now move on to the engaging segment of this program, a panel discussion moderated by SAIA's Luanda Mpogose. She serves as SAIA's Outreach and Partnerships Manager. Please help me welcome Luanda to facilitate the session.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I can't accept that. Good afternoon. That sounds much better. I think the context has been laid in terms of the changing world that we find ourselves in. And of course, this changing world also requires that we adapt in terms of the skills and the qualifications that we have. And I think the importance of the humanities degree remains and persists, as has been highlighted by the previous speakers. So we're going to usher you into a conversation that we are hoping is not going to be a one-sided conversation, but you are also going to input by sharing your interventions and your questions as well. But to get us started in this conversation, I'd like to welcome the speakers for this panel discussion, which is entitled Humanities Foundations and Future-Proofing Core Issues, Reimagining Humanities Futures. And I'd like to then invite the first speaker, Cynthia Chigwenya, joined by Dr. Pagamisa Siotula, Dr. Margaret Monyani, Raymond Matlala, last but not least, Amahle Imvelo Chakla. Thank you very much in helping me welcome the panelists. I will provide brief bios for them, but just to kind of frame this panel discussion with what has been discussed in the opening session, where it was noted that the world is facing some changes, some which include technological advancements such as artificial intelligence and automation or integration of automation. Stark demographic divides, especially in the context of the African continent, as well as persistent job quality strains. And here you hear a lot the term called skills mismatch, which we hope to address in one way or the other. So the speakers that are sitting in front of you, their bios are as follows. Cynthia Chigwenya is a political researcher and academic with experience in policymaking. She holds a B Social Science in Criminology and International Studies, a Bachelor of Arts Honors, summa cum laude. And a master's degree studying development studies here at the Wits University, having focused on transitional justice in post-genocide Rwanda, Zimbabwe's peace building mechanisms, and conflict mediation in South Sudan. You can give her a round of applause. Dr. Pagamisa Siotula is a senior South African diplomat, political scientist, and accomplished marathon runner. I guess is a good opportunity to congratulate him for the marathon, the Comrades Marathon. He has been serving at the Department of International Relations and Cooperation on issues related to the continental agenda, regional integration, as well as global governance. He also has studied here at Wits, holding a master's degree in international relations and a doctorate. A round of applause for Dr. Siotula. Dr. Margaret Monyani is a passionate migration expert with a decade of experience in university teaching, research, project design, and execution. She currently holds the position of a senior migration researcher at the Institute for Security Studies located in Pretoria. She also holds a master's degree in international relations and a Bachelor of Arts in political science. Dr. Monyani's PhD is in international relations, summa cum laude. We are also joined by Raymond Matlala, who is the founder and chairman of the South African BRICS Youth Association. He is a doctoral candidate in business administration at the Vaal University of Technology and works quite substantially with young people within the BRICS space in allowing them to know what the policy process looks like, as well as the substantive issues of the BRICS. Last but not least, we have Amathe Imvelo Chaka, who is a prominent South African digital content creator, entrepreneur, and a youth advocate famous for her viral current affairs and political commentary videos on TikTok and Instagram. A round of applause once again for. So perhaps to begin with a question that I'm posing to all the speakers, and we will start with Amathe and all the way to Cynthia. And here, I think it's imperative that we get an understanding that from your experience in pursuing a humanities degree, how has your journey been from the process in which you started studying your university career, but also as you entered the career space?
How's it? So I started off, in fact, at Wits, dropped out, humanities degree, then went on to become an entrepreneur and a business person. And I owned a restaurant and we did an events company and I was in marketing and I was still pursuing a BA degree of politics, philosophy, and economics through UNISA. And that kind of informed how I ran my business. The good doctor was telling us about ethics and, how you operate, how humanity teaches us how to have a human element to all these things, whether it's tech or business. I think my degree was very informative in that, in the policies that I instituted in my events company, in my restaurant, and so on and so forth. And then in 2024, I decided to come back to school. I came back to Wits to do my honors in international relations. And I sat in a class called Media and International Relations with Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh. And that is the class that changed everything for me. Sitting in that class, I learned about how media was transforming and traditional forms of media wouldn't be, not that they wouldn't be around because I can't do my job without them, but that they were evolving. And it would be that class that would then spark me starting House It and taking the time to break down political and current affairs to the youth. I think one of my biggest lessons from both my undergrad and my honors class is that humanities are, or rather the degrees are degrees about transferable skills. Right. So we often think, and the good doctor mentioned it, that if you want to be a historian, or rather if you study history, you must study, if you study history, you become a historian. And I found that with humanities, I am actually able to see I'm not as boxed into a career as being an engineer or being a lawyer. And so that means that if I, for example, or one of you have studied English, you can actually be a copywriter for an advertising agency. Or if you've studied politics or international relations, you can be like me and become a content creator. The humanities degrees, I think, create thinkers. And I think that's way more valuable. No shade to STEM, but that's way more valuable, particularly in the world that we're in. And so for me, humanities allowed me to think broadly and to not always be in a box of, I'm going to be a lawyer or a doctor. And obviously, I'm very grateful for the class that I was in with Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh and all of that, and how it taught me how to research things. I can't do my job without that research that I learned in my undergrad and in my honors class. How to fact check, how to think critically. We did a class, it was media and international relations, and I learned about the propaganda model, and it taught me not to believe, the media at face value. So now when I do a TikTok on Iran, for example, I have to look at Al Jazeera as much as I have to look at CNN, as much as I have to look at BBC and SABC. Those are kind of the lessons and the skills that I got from both degrees that I have. And I think being that the room just screams house it everywhere I go, I think that has been beneficial to me. So for me, I think the degree then just let me be a thinker, and being a thinker, I think, is more valuable than any other career that you can possibly have. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. Yeah, so my career journey is in management, finance, and entrepreneurship. But my first, sorry, that is my academic journey. But my first career journey was in education. Transitioned into enterprise development, at least something that I've studied for, and transitioned into international relations. Most people that know me, they know me by my South African scarf, and they always think that I studied political science, international relations, anything related to international relations. No, I studied entrepreneurship and I'm still studying entrepreneurship. And I would like to follow the thought process that Dr. Eyita Okon was saying, that studying history does not necessarily mean that you are going to be a historian or it leads you to that particular path. It provides you with a basis for critical thinking and analytical thinking, but the career choice, it has to come from what you love. Most of the, when I started off at university, I thought, because I was studying management with a major in financial management and strategic management, I thought I'll be a GM somewhere, general manager in some big company there, and run these things. And I proceeded when I was then doing my my postgraduate studies, and I was doing entrepreneurship, and my professor in the first class for entrepreneurship, he said, if you're here to be an entrepreneur, you are in a wrong class. And we thought, this one is crazy. We are here to do that. And we never thought that he's enabling us. In fact, the program is enabling us to be enablers, that we provide an enabling environment from a policy perspective, contributing with policy research through to enable entrepreneurs to better succeed in their programs. And my PhD topic is on black tax, by the way. So I'm looking at black tax. How does black tax influence student entrepreneurial intentions? And the hypothesis is black tax is a social construct. Therefore, when you look at social norm, you need to think about it. It's something that, we never thought of it that way, but now this new research is coming up with this. Now it's an enabling policy direction for many people. So that is what we are as HSS graduates or HSS scholars. And maybe just to touch, as I've said, my last career was in education. It was in research, by the way. And it was in research in default, and I transitioned from research to project management, and I transitioned from project management to programs lead, and so forth and so on. And today, since last year, October, I took a decision to fully focus on the international relations space, and fully focusing on the South African BRICS Youth Association, with the work that we do now expanding into the G20 priorities for South Africa last year, using the Y20 stream. So that is basically my education journey leading into my career journey. But you'll see that it is not necessarily linked to qualifications that I've studied. Even when I started my career journey, it was in research education, and I transitioned into education sector project management. Then I transitioned into project management in enterprise development, and then transitioned now into a full-time practitioner in international relations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be back here. In fact, it is emotional for me to be here because this is where it all started. I was also among the SAIIA CAS scholarship program. So I that year, which is a long time ago, I was also organizing this event. So yeah, I am quite emotional, and it's been an amazing journey. From my side, in terms of the career, I knew when I was doing my second year politics that I wanted to be a diplomat. That I told myself. I think I was at the time I was doing one of the modules that I was doing was diplomatic practice. So I got fascinated, learned more about what diplomats do. I was fascinated about the fact that diplomats represent their country, because if you are a diplomat, you are not CO2, but you are South Africa when you are out there. So that is, for me, something that I felt it would be a privilege to do. So I learned about the SAIIA CAS internship program when I was doing my honors and applied, came here. I was from Umtata at the time. I was studying there. I remember I flew from East London to Joburg for the first time. It was my first flight. So I was picked up, did my interview, and I was fortunate that I made it. So we were only 3 at the time. One lady left just 2 weeks after we started, so we were just 2 at the time. So I must say that this program really prepared me well, because all the skill sets that are required for you to be a good diplomat, I learned them here. I always tell my colleagues that, I mean, yes, there is a lot that I've learned over the years, but this was a stepping stone for me in terms of the career that I've had. So I did my this program, and then immediately, as I knew, in fact, when I got here, I knew that then, yeah, I'll join. It was then Department of Foreign Affairs. So I worked for my interviews and everything, competence assessment when I was here. And then the program finished on the 5th of December. And on the 5th of January, I was starting from then Department of Foreign Affairs as a junior official. And after 2 years, I was posted to Switzerland after finishing my diplomatic training. In fact, I was handpicked at the time. I was the first person to live in the group. We had what was called management prerogative at the time. So I was among the top students because we do a diplomatic training. So then I was sent to Switzerland, where I had to do disarmament, non-proliferation and arms control issues for about 4 years, then came back, got promoted to a deputy director post, to our policy research and analysis unit. So I served there for 2 years. Then immediately after that, when I was in Switzerland, I did my second master's degree, because that is also important. Many people tend to relax once they are they get jobs. So you need to always try and equip yourselves and not relax. So I completed my second master's degree in contemporary diplomacy. And then I moved to DRC, which was an interesting posting for me, because from Switzerland to Congo, it was quite a different experience. Served there for almost 5 years, and then came back to Pretoria, and then got promoted as a director. I'm now the head of the National Office for the Coordination of Peace Missions. So I deal with peace and security related issues in the context of the African Union and the United Nations. So that has been my journey, and as I said, it's quite important over the years. When I came back, registered for my PhD, my research focused on the conflict that has been ongoing for many years in the Eastern DRC and the Great Lakes region. So I graduated with the University of KwaZulu-Natal in 2024, but I'm still learning. I'm still trying by all means to equip myself. Just Dr. Aida Okon mentioned that as well, that is important, especially now with AI, which is an in thing. So this year in April, I was in Cambridge. I was part of the group. We were the first group, by the way, which is a joint venture between the South African government and the British government, based on the G20 outcomes of last year, which had to, one of the priorities was AI. So I was part of that group, which was South Africa and British students. So I did this AI governance program for about 4 months, and then we came back, got certificates. So it has been an interesting journey. No regrets, but I'm grateful for the opportunity because of having been here in this hall, and here at SAIIA, which really was key in terms of the success of my career. Thank you.
I'm big on things. What is happening is thing. The bio the center. Director of Olam Africa Research Institute, which I founded. Let someone from ISS thinks, who is this ghost worker from our organization? Yeah, so thank you so much for the invitation. So when there's the speaker was talking about the way people, talk down on humanities, when I got the invitation, I thought to share a very personal story that I've never shared with anyone. Even my own family doesn't know about how my career in humanities. I'm the first person in my family to ever step in the university, let alone get a degree. Not even on my father's side, not on my mother's side. So there were no conversations about, I even don't know any of my cousins who went to college. I don't know, and I have very older cousins. So I did not have anyone to speak to me about. My parents, the much they did is to say, please get good grades when you, in grade 12. That's all they said. And remember, you are a firstborn. So that's what they will tell me, that if you fail, your brothers will fail. It's a lie, by the way. So they put a lot of pressure on me, but that wasn't a big deal. I've never had a problem with books. I passed very well, and I knew I was going to the university. But unfortunately, in the systems that I was studying in, STEM was the thing. You had to say you were going in for medicine, and even worse, because thankfully, because of my good grades, they call them index numbers from where I come from. So I was index, I think 3 out of 100, 200 students, I don't know. So the expectations are high. There's no way I was going to choose a career in humanities. The whole school is looking at you to be the next engineer, someone who will take, medicine and stuff like that. So when we write grade 12 exams, usually they ask you to fill in university courses. So that is the system I studied in. You choose 4 courses. What is your best? The one you knew. Now, because I knew I liked humanities, I liked geography, I liked history, That is where I rolled. But because I'm scared, I'm index 3. Do you know what I chose? Medicine. And I knew I don't like mathematics at all. I don't like numbers except when money is involved. When I see a number carrying another one, oh, my world just collapses. I'm wondering, why is a number carrying another one? So, but I got enough, grade, just enough maths to get me to university, right? So I wasn't failing much, but I liked history. I loved it so much. So this is what happens. I chose medicine, must have been nursing. And I said, I knew I won't get in. I knew, because I just knew. Then I said, if I fail that, let's become a teacher. But I want to teach maths and whatever. You know, those kind of, I also know I will not get it, but I'm writing. Look at how society can mess you up. So I can't remember course number 3, but I remember course number 4. Forest science, something like that. Because I just wanted to put science there. Can you imagine? Forestry, science, because it had science. Now, this is what happens in my system. So so there is a national board that selects students, right? So they will go to people who chose medicine. You have to get 74 points or something like that. So they will look at it. They will give priority to people who passed and they got the grades. I did not. Then when they go to number 2, which was my teaching math, they will also, because there are people who put it number 1. If the slots, you see how it goes. So even in my forestry science, I did not get a slot because it was my number 4, and some people put number 1 and the slots were filled. Now this went on. Now I don't know this story because you only get to know when you get your a year and a half later. That's when you get results. You are later to the university. Now I don't know what was happening at that time. My ancestors must have been sleeping because I didn't even get my university letter. My neighbors are getting, I knew already I got a good grade. I must go to the university, but I knew this grade that I got is not for medicine. It's something. Now I didn't get my letter. Remember, my parents don't know anything about university or anything, but there was a teacher in my village. So this teacher came to our house and said, no, actually you can go to a university that was in my Gauteng. So you can go to WITS, and WITS will have a list. I'm just using WITS as an example. I did study here. You can go there and it has the list of all students in the country and where, in which degrees they have been placed. So I went there, and that's how I knew I didn't get. So I went in, got in this young man. He said, oh, come in. There was no computer then. There were, but the list wasn't online. So we go through the pages. We go through the medicine I knew. I told him, don't even go there. Because I knew I didn't have an A. So yeah. So we went through the second, third, and even the last one, forestry, nothing. Guess what this guy told me? And this has stuck with me for almost, how many years? Maybe 15 or so. And that thing really sank into my spirit in a very bad way. He said, okay, I've just remembered there is this other useless course that they usually put students who don't qualify anywhere. So that time I've never heard about political science since Adam. I do not know anything like political science exists. Guess what? He opens the political science brochure, and my name is number 2 on the list. My heart sank. And then he convinced me. He said, please, when you go to the university, you better even change and go to education. This course they just started the other day and is very useless. So I went home. Guess what? My mom asked me, did you see your name? I said, no. And I have never told anyone. This is the first time I'm verbalizing that story. So I really wanted to study law because when I saw medicine wasn't there, I said law could be a good thing because you are looking for a direct path. You know, at least when you study law, you'll become a lawyer, medicine, you know, like that. So I'm wondering, political science, what will politician? I don't have the money. How will I become a politician? You know, also I'm a woman at that time and I know how women are harassed in politics. So now I went to the university. And then I also found people who had the same mentality. They thought they had been misplaced, because then when you study political science, you will become, for internship, you'll become a district officer. I don't know what that means in this. You'll go to that office of a district officer and do internship there. And those people, the government used to spy on them a lot. So your life will be on the radar, something like that. So I went to first year and I studied, and I made a commitment to myself. I'm going to make sure I get good marks, because there was an opportunity. If you get good marks, you can transfer to law, but then you will go back to first year. I just have to make sure that I get a 70 as mean mark. So that is what I was working hard for. But guess what happened? When I went to class and we studied Introduction to Political Science, Introduction to International Relations, I said, but this is interesting. Well, where am I going now? So after first semester, we got into second semester. I fell in love with the course. I never thought of changing the course. And I graduated with a first class. And immediately I finished, I knew I'm going to study international relations. I graduated in December and enrolled in January for a master's degree. I didn't even wait. I graduated from my master's, waited 2 years, because by now I know from my accent, I'm a foreigner. I came to this country without a scholarship. That is how hungry I was for studies. Sometimes I hear people say, I tell them, go and study your PhD. They say, I need money. I didn't have money. I only got money to pay for 1 year. And I could, there is an opportunity for me as a foreign student not to stay here, to do out of state. So I just paid for 1 year, which was 75%, came in, enrolled. The scholarships found me in the system. So and I've learned in life, you just have to start. You don't have to have it all figured out. So I did my PhD. Of course, I had been also teaching. Where I did my master's, it was really, I did a very good research. And I remember when I presented like this, the dean immediately allocated me classes to teach honors students, because I had scored so well. So I started teaching in the university. I taught way back home. When I came here, we were me and the speaker Okon, our offices were next to each other. We graduated a year after each other. So we taught here, we taught Vets Plus. After I graduated, I went to postdoc UJ. And no, actually I went to German first, because after my PhD, I was so done with cities. I did not want to stay in a city. So I went to Germany and I went to Bavaria, a very small town. I went there for 6 months, came back. I was at the UJ, and then that is how I got a job at ISS. When I went to ISS, which is a policy space, I've been in academia for 10 years. And in that moment, I was like, let me go and try. So I'll know whether I should come back to academia or stay in the policy space. But over time, after 3 years, I said, no, let me just institutionalize my skills. So that's how I founded Olam Africa, which is going to be a home for some of you. That is if you talk to me nicely. So I founded Olam Africa Research Institute, which is a think tank that advances evidence, dialogue, and foresight for an Africa in transition, because we recognize that Africa is going through so many transitions in many areas, and our focus areas as of now are on migration, climate, and digital technologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. As a younger, not young, as a younger person on the panel, because I'm much older than most of you here, I'm tempted to share a quote, which is, I stand on the sacrifices of people who have come before me and thought, how do I make this mountain taller so that those who come after me can see further? And I think that's one of the things I took away from Dr. Margaret's intervention. But also Dr. Dix hinted to this when he spoke that as a humanities student today, yes, there are challenges that have been described, but you look at those challenges with excitement, because you've got so much information at your fingertips on your phone and the libraries that we have, and you're definitely, at least for you and I, we're starting at a better place than some of the people that we've heard today. So thank you for sharing that. I will start by sharing what I'm doing now and then move back to how I got to what I'm doing now. But before I do that, I want to list a number of countries. And if anybody who's really brilliant tells me what they have in common, I will reward that person. So the countries are Madagascar, Peru, Kenya, Nigeria, and Morocco. What do those countries have in common that happened within the past 2 years? Madagascar, Peru, Kenya, Nigeria, and Morocco. Yes? Okay, see me after this session. Give them a round of applause. So they've asked you to repeat what you said so that we can have that on record.
Good afternoon. I'm Elias Masinga, former vet scholar. So all the countries that have been mentioned, they've had the youth uprising, all of them. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's correct. See Dr. Dix for your gift. I'm kidding. I'll own up to my word. So that's correct. Those countries actually had youth-led protests or youth-led uprisings within the past 2 years. So what have I been doing over the past 6 years now since I left SAIIA? I've mostly been working with organizations that are promoting youth participation in decision-making spaces. The most known one being the African Union. I served as African Union's youth ambassador for Southern Africa. Now, when most of you think of the African Union, you think of the institution where you have seen videos of presidents probably sleeping, and that is true. But it's also an institution that is changing and institutionalizing youth participation to bring more young people into decision making. So that's at least the most known one or the most popular one. Related to that, when you see in the description that is on my bio, it says the Club of Rome, and the Club of Rome is also doing similar work, which is to say, yes, youth-led protests have happened and young people are hurtful, they're tired. They don't want to participate in formal decision-making processes anymore. But how do we bring them back to the decision-making table and we start engaging with them, not just as the ones who are in the peripheries and participate through informal decision-making, but actually at the decision-making table, if we're to use that language. So those two things are I think the most notable ones that I've done in terms of youth engagement and youth contributions to decision making. And when I entered this hall, I saw my former colleague, Nathan, who said, if you go onto that panel and you don't mention that you worked for the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, you and I will have an issue. So when I left SAIIA, I was one of the 2020 scholars. So we came onto campus, had 2 fantastic weeks of coming to this building, and then the COVID-19 pandemic happened. So that's the year that we did our internship at SAIIA. So some of the anxieties that you have today, not knowing where you're going to go after your degree, we had that, but we also had that during a pandemic. So it was anxiety, but also multiplied by whichever factors that were going on in the world. When I finished the internship, I was actually unemployed for quite some time, which is also quite stressful. Maybe we'll speak to this later. But I did get an internship again with the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung to be one of the parliamentary research programs. And that's also to say to everybody else who's going to apply, sometimes you don't get a position at SAIIA, but it matters how you engage also with the organizations that SAIIA works with when you're at SAIIA, if you do make it for the internship. So I did get a job to be a parliamentary researcher with the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, which was a non-permanent position. And then I attended an interview with Dr. Dix, who spoke earlier, and that's how I got onto the road to become a regional, to become a program coordinator for a regional program called Political Dialogue for sub-Saharan Africa. And during my time at KAS is when I also worked with the African Union. So a few lessons from that as well in terms of a hybrid skills, but also engaging with different organizations because your job is not your career. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the panelists for those open responses. Really, it was really good to kind of have a sense of everybody's experience in the humanities. And if I might take away some of the skills, some life skills that I heard emerge from the speakers, one, the importance of research, because it actually becomes important for the work that you undertake, for you to have evidence base. The importance of, I think it also speaks to the points that was made by Dr. Okon earlier, that you're not restricted in the humanities, you can actually pivot. So the interesting elements brought by Raymond in his doctoral research about Black tax as a social construct, because it speaks to how we can really look at phenomenon through analyzing complex systems as but one example. I think it's the importance of how your university career, especially if you're also working as well as you're studying, and how that can nurture some of the skills that you need if you were to pursue a career in being a diplomat. I think, Dr. Monyane, I would hope that as we pursue these careers in humanities, our ancestors are in fact not sleeping. But I think an important life lesson that you impart to this room is that sometimes you just need to start. You just need to take that first step. So I want to highlight that as a life lesson. And of course, Cynthia highlights the importance of, if you're in the humanities space, you can actually do amazing and big things, such as being a young person informing decision-making, and not just country specific, not just in the region, but globally. So I think it was an important point of departure. Panelists, you will realize that I did not disturb you at all as we did this first round. But now I will really request that we keep our interventions to about 2 minutes. And this is really to ensure that we also bring in the room for discussion. And to all the attendees, I'd also like to greet those joining us online. We haven't forgotten you. We welcome you to this discussion as well. So to prepare you in the room, you can start jotting down your questions, your interventions. I will ask to hold you to the similar standard of when you are invited to speak, to keep it to about 2 minutes maximum. To also kind of clarify that our speakers will be available for a short networking session after this. So for some of the other engagements, you can also engage them at that point. But I think having now understood the journeys, whether academic or career focused, I think I would be remiss if I also didn't situate this conversation within the context of the current unemployment context in South Africa, because that becomes a huge concern, I'm sure, of many in the room. And I think if we look at the statistics, we are currently sitting at 32.7% in South Africa, where youth unemployment for persons between 25 and 34 are about 40.6%. That's really staggering. That's a very sobering statistic. So what do we say to the students who are in this room and joining us online about this kind of context, and also situating it within the humanities? And here I'd like to request interventions from Raymond and Amahle, and if anybody else has a burning desire to answer, I'll also extend to yourself as well. So Raymond, you're free to go first.
Thank you, Luanda, Director. Can you just repeat your question again, briefly?
It really is about reflecting on youth unemployment. We are in a session that speaks to humanities qualifications. So what do we say to young people pursuing humanities in the context of youth unemployment?
No offense. So, I mean, coming from entrepreneurship background, I would say start businesses. That's the easy way to get out of this question. But I mean, business is one of them, right? And not everyone would become an entrepreneur, but I encourage each and every one of you to also start thinking entrepreneurial. And I always say that every program that you do would always have an entrepreneurial linear. So HR, what other political science, there will always be an entrepreneurial journey that one could possibly pick up. But also, the other thing is, while you're at university, the university journey do a lot of outreach programs and participate in university programs. It's debate, sport. Now there are university societies, that the university are offering, and in there they are academic and non-academic programs. I know here in Vets a few months ago, we launched the KAS-SAIIA Vets chapter, engage with them on the work that we do in BRICS and G20 space. But the other element is start volunteering now to gain experience, soft skills, and to some extent, even some of the technical skills that one would need for a particular career or program. I was told to keep it at 2 minutes, but those are some of the few things that I think we should start thinking about. But more so, the South African economy at the moment, we know that it is not able to absorb the job seekers. So we need to think entrepreneurial. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to speak in the context of content creation because that's what I do. So in terms of some of the insights that I've noticed in the last couple of years, number one, in a content creation or an influencer space, there is a need for information content creators and influencers, right? So people who come on the internet and spread all sorts and forms of knowledge. So you have like people who are the science guys or someone like myself who does political content creation. Now, I know there is a little bit of like a dark cloud around influencing and everybody's like, it's not a real job. I'm here to tell you that last week I was sitting with the foreign minister of Germany in a private audience from content creation, discussing, amongst other things, how can we get young people from Germany and South Africa to, to collaborate? And how can we get young South Africans involved in education programs in Germany and vice versa? So someone is going to look at you and say, oh my God, you're just an influencer. Trust me, there's a gap there. In a world of misinformation and disinformation, people are looking for trusted sources. They're looking for relatable sources. And it does not necessarily mean that you have to be in front of the camera. People are creating animations. People are using Canva and all sorts of things to give little information bits of sorts, right? So find a way for me, the best I can advise now from my own practical experience, to enter the media space in a way that maybe is not conventional. How can you get a job at 5FM as a researcher? How can you get a job at a newspaper or a, what's this thing called? A newspaper or television station? I think in a world that is becoming more digital, the gaps are most possibly in digital spaces. And so that's what I would say in terms of how can you use your humanities degree for employment, is to try and go the unconventional way, regardless of, not regardless, sorry, in the context of we have high unemployment and BA degrees are not looked at as the best degrees. But that's a lie and we all know that.
Thank you. Thank
By
you.
the way, that's entrepreneurship.
Thank you very much, Raymond and Amahle. I think I will want to circle back to this idea of, digital transformation and how we pivot. But before we do that, I'd like to refer to Cynthia and Dr. Pagamisa. I think looking at both what you've pursued academically and this diverse pool of areas that you've pursued within the humanities, it would be interesting to learn how these have complemented each other. Cynthia, I'm drawing here also from the work from your work working with different organizations, but also your tenure as the AU Youth for Peace ambassador. Dr. Pagamisa, you've also indicated some of the diverse kind of postings that you've had, but also how you've pursued some of your academic qualifications. There's kind of a diversity there, but is there a practical kind of experience that you can share of how these have complemented each other and allowed you to pivot in your career? Cynthia, can I start with you, please?
Okay, good. So how do the roles that I have had in the international development space and academia complemented each other? I think one of the challenges we actually have in international development or even in policy making is that most of the decisions are not informed by data. And when we look at policy making or even the role that think tanks should play, or even public intellectuals should play, that does not trickle into actual policy making, which is one of the first challenges. But the second one is, how then do we measure or track that whatever information that actually comes out of research rules or research institutions is actually what is being implemented by policymakers. So I think there's a gap there to consistently always refer to, I think, data-informed policy making, especially when it comes to the use of AI or even the use of digital technologies in terms of decision making. It might be or backed by real data. What I did after, which is when I left the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung last year, is that I actually enrolled for a PhD program, and I'm currently researching conflict mediation in Sudan. Sudan is one of the countries that are in conflict, and Dr. Eke mentioned the ability to contextualize some of the conflict dynamics that we see, not just on perhaps in the South African context that could be interpreted in terms of xenophobia, in East African context or in parts of Kenya that could be climate-induced migration that leads to conflict, in countries such as conflict that comes up from military factions actually fighting. So on a personal level, being able to research that and have new insights helps to go back to the African Union and say, when a resolution is being adopted on Sudan, whether be it using infrastructure such as the African Union's Peace Fund, which is then dispatched to countries that are at risk of conflict, this is the data that should inform those decisions. So I think that's one very practical example of how academia and decision-making and policy-making actually relates to each other.
Thank you so much for the question. For me, what is important, especially in this area of international relations diplomacy, is adaptability. You must have that ability to adapt in different environments. In fact, we are talking about humanities here, but if you go to my department, there are science issues that we deal with. I mentioned the fact that I dealt with disarmament, non-proliferation, and arms control. That is a very, very technical area. I was completely lost when I went to Geneva. I was thrown into the deep end, and I got there. It was the review conference of the non-proliferation treaty, and I was lost. Could not even understand the terminology because it's science. I mean, you have scientists actually coming because you're talking about enriched uranium, this and that. So basically, what I did, I had to attend courses and just empower myself to adapt. But I can tell you, by the second year, I was at least I could connect the dots and I was able to learn. You just have to learn quick and adapt, because the expectation is that you must know you are a diplomat. So you have to. But what is important is, as I say, it's just adaptability. And thereafter, I mean, you know, we have this language in the department of postings. There is what is called an ice cream posting, and then we have hardship posting. So I was unfortunate, I must say I was unfortunate, because I started with an ice cream posting and then went to a hardship, not the other way around. Because then it was also, again, I had to adapt because it was a completely different environment. DRC is one complicated country. We used to say, I mean, when you analyze events there, it's not your typical politics 101 or 301, whatever. It's different. So you have to learn, as you have to engage a lot of stakeholders. In fact, even if you read newspapers, there you'll get 5 different newspapers saying 5 different things. So you don't know which one is which. So you need to have that adapt, especially with your research skills and analysis. That's what you have to do, because our principals are waiting because we are eyes and ears of the country. You have to write your analytical reports, send them to head office. They go to the minister, even to the president, if there is a serious issue. In fact, before elections, you are asked as a diplomat, who do you think is going to be a president? And already you have 5 names. So what you do, so you have to engage. So there is a lot of adaptation that you need to do in our space, which I think, especially for you who is aspire to be diplomats or work for international organizations, you have to be prepared because as I say, we have so many sections and some that are very technical. In fact, now what we are doing, especially in multilateral, it is becoming now a specialization. So you specialize because of the way some of the things are evolving and technical. And I have also sort of become a specialist in multilateral because I've been for almost 15 years in the department. I've been mainly dealing with UN issues and AU issues, so which is multilateral. Hence, my branch is global governance and continental agenda. The only bilateral work that I did was when I was in the DRC, but even though DRC as well is a hybrid because there is UN missions, there's MONUSCO and others. So there is also that specialization, but as a diplomat, you have to adapt. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Monyane, your story provokes what often happens to humanities students, where even when you tell your parents that you're pursuing this degree, sometimes it's met with some resistance. And I think you've had the pleasure of entering and realizing how passionate you were about it. You then further went to go work in the environment, but you've also worked in different sectors within the humanities. You've been in an academic, you've worked in think tanks, and then other, I imagine, other spaces as well. For me, it highlights that, interdisciplinary thinking becomes very important, where you're able to adapt to different backgrounds using your humanities qualifications. Are there practical examples that you're able to draw to the room where you've seen that there is, in fact, that importance?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, very important. Just like from your question and what the speaker said, Eki, you cannot say I'm a sociologist, so I will only, become a it doesn't work like that. And yeah, so when I was writing my PhD, I would call myself a migration expert. But how does migration as a phenomenon happen? We know right now climate change leads to migration. You cannot talk about migration without talking about digital technologies. Why? Because migrants are sharing information online, they're using their own intelligence. So you really need to not box yourself, because that's also one thing. Just because I am in, I don't know, political science, then that's it. No, you have to be able to speak to these different issues. Social issues are so interconnected. You can never say, I can draw the line here, like in mathematics, this formula only applies when you are getting length times width is for this. It doesn't work like that with human beings. And I'm one of those people who is really very passionate about our social sciences and humanities. And I always say, in fact, those engineering, I'm going to throw shade. I'm not going to. They just need to have that chemical. I don't know if you are in chemistry, put this chemical. If it turns red, it means like this. But I cannot sit here and say, what will Trump say tomorrow? You cannot. You cannot. So you really need, and that's why you need to develop, you need to develop interest. Don't just be boxed in what you are reading. When you are even watching news, even though I don't think news, you must also know as students, there is a difference between information and knowledge. You could be informed, but you are not knowledgeable. I hope that you know. Yeah, just going online and reading 3,000 comments doesn't make you now an expert on issues. Please develop interest in technology, like our speaker said. Learn a thing or two. I use AI a lot, and I've learned that it's as good as you. It's as good as you. I fight with ChatGPT. What are you saying here? I don't want that. And it fights back. And I say, this is my laptop. You have to listen to me. So, So like now, because I run a think tank and we are working on these three issues and I see how much they interconnect. You cannot talk about digital technologies and put climate in one box and put migration in another box and even other issues. You always have, they will always speak to each other. So please develop interest even in other areas. When I was an undergraduate, we would even pick what they call electives, where you could go to other courses and pick, and I'm sure it happens here. Yeah, even just not that class, read in the newspaper, read blogs online. I mean, expand your knowledge and also as an individual. You know, we talk about that. I'm also very passionate as an individual. Even you as a person, what are the qualities you have? You could be very knowledgeable. Honestly, you can articulate issues, but you don't know how to work with people. That is very important because what vets will give you is this knowledge, but character is on you. You have to make it a point. Sorry, I'm preaching. I have to preach. Because in my past life, I was also a preacher. By there, you didn't put on my bio. By there, I went to Bible school. So it's true. I've learned, like, at my level, I have a PhD. Honestly, I've been taught how to think, how to get trends. I can stand before people and speak. But when it comes to networking, that's a different ballgame. You need to know how to speak to people, how to approach people. Just to throw this out, there is I organized another event and students came there. I invited, even so whoever I invited came here with students. But this student wrote to me to say they're interested in my organization, they love what to do. But the student couldn't even get the name of my organization right. I haven't responded. It's been a week. I'm not going to penalize them, but I was like, no, you need even, those are small details. So yes, very important. You cannot box yourself. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Manyana. I think what I've been trying to also provoke, and I think I might circle back to the other speakers, is that we shouldn't see humanities as humanities versus STEM. I think it's important that we also find the areas of complementarity, and I hope we'll be able to kind of draw other experiences where we can demonstrate that these can work with each other. But I'm now going to open the floor. I'm going to take a round of, I'm going to take about 2 rounds, hopefully, of, okay. So if you get a mic, please introduce yourself. Tell us which institution you come from or school you come from, and pose your question or your comment in just 1.5 minutes, maximum 2 minutes. I'll be standing right next to you to keep you honest. Okay, so we'll just. So I recognize my sister at the back wearing red. I need males. Dr. Dix said this about males. We've got you. We need males. I'll come back, but I need to see some male hands. Where are the males? I need a male. There's my brother there with the jackets. Yes. I need somebody at the back of this room. Anybody at the back? There's a hand over there. And then I'll come back to the front over here. Yes, to you, my sister. Okay. So I'll begin with my sister wearing the red at the back. Introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and please pose your question. Let us know who you're asking the question.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Yandi Swak Yandile. I come from the University of Pretoria. I'm currently doing my honors in linguistics. So my question is to anyone really in the panel. How do you express what you want? Like, okay, you studied one thing, but you want to work in another industry. So how do you write that in your CV? Because as much as I'm studying languages, I have experience in marketing, facilitating events, hosting, stuff like that. But it's easier for me to say that in person instead of on a document.
Thank you. Who would like to take the question? Just for noting. Dr. Monyane will take that question. Yes, brother? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Babokile Rachale. I'm honor student in developmental studies and political studies here at VET. My question is on publishing as a student. And I'm posing it to all of the panelists. Where do you start? How do you go about it? What advice would you give for some of us who are aspiring to publish some think pieces as a student? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Can I just get an indication of who's taking the question? I think one person will suffice in the interest of time. Publishing as a student. Dr. Monya. There was a hand here at the back. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Samila Kuse. I'm a third year international relations student at the University of South Africa. And I firstly want to give my gratitude to Mr. Raymond Matala for putting SAIIA at universities, for giving us the opportunity to basically be part of the BRICS initiatives. Yeah. So my question is for Dr. Pagamisa. You mentioned working, you mentioned that you work at DERCO. So my question is that us as many people that are actually passionate about working in international relations, that's because we care about diplomacy, we care about policy and global cooperation. So my question is, we often hear that we can't get jobs in IR, in international relations, because we need to get involved into politics. So for those of us who don't like fighting and don't like being into politics, are there any other pathways that exist to build a career in international relations and serve South Africa at DERCO? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the final for this round.
Hello, everyone. Damn. I understand that it is 6 p.m., but I would like to say good morning. My name is Siviwe. I am a master's student at the University of the Western Cape. I just teleported really quickly to see my elders here. Okay, so my question, and Dr. Margaret, I love you so much, girl, but I'm about to throw you under the bus. So, what do we do when the people that are supposed to be on our team, you know, hiring us, appreciating us as thinkers, do the opposite? They're the same people using AI. They're the same people putting it in their speeches. You know, my master's thesis is about AI in the military domain. And so I was looking for South Africa's AI policy to see like safeguards and stuff. Why was it AI generated? Right. So my question is now, as humanities people, should we adapt or get left behind, or should we stay in our stance to say, I am better than a machine? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if I can throw in a question, I think Amahle, this is specifically for you. I think how we start to how we've been consuming information and news and current affairs has been changing. Sometimes you see things for the first time on social media, and then you go and you look it up. So I think with that context of how we consume and share knowledge, how have you carved out the space for yourself in making sure that when we see you on our FYP, we actually stop to listen to you? How have you actually done that? So I'll ask Dr. Monyane to answer those three questions, invite Dr. Pagamisa, and then Amahle, I'll come to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, the first one, how do you articulate that you can do this particular job when you have training? Focus on the skill that you acquired over time. That is what you articulate in your cover letter. You say, I've been able to, maybe it's, if it's research, teamwork, I have attention to detail, and you can say where you have picked it here and there, and then speak to how you will apply it in the other context. So you don't really need to know that. It's just, that's why the speaker say, focus on the portfolio. If you had something like that, she says, articulate the skills you have acquired over time. Yeah, because sometimes we even right now, like later on, if you write your PhD, we actually write PhD as a experience, as work. Because initially people used to say, you're just studying. No, I'm acquiring skills. So I put it in my CV. Even your masters, you can. Yeah, the skills you are, you know, staying up night, you know. Anyway, so just focus on articulating the skills. And I'm one person, there's something I'll do next year about also fellows in my own institute. And if there is anything, we are going to have a forum next year. I was just talking to Professor Gilbert Kadigala, who is part of my advisory board, to say, I want to make it intergenerational. While it be a forum of, you know, who and who's the, you know, but I want to be able to invite students from the neighboring colleges to be able to come in the same rooms with these people. So focus on the skills. The second question was on Publishing. Please just reach out to those organizations. They usually have their own guidelines. If you reach out to All Africa, I'll tell you this is how we write, and we will give you some kind of little training and reach out. It's as simple as that. Reach out and ask, do they have space for students to publish? They will always give you guidelines. This is how we do it. You'll get feedback, so don't get scared. The first thing is to reach out. So, and have an idea. I mean, don't just reach out and you don't have idea, and be willing to take also feedback and work on it. Nobody really knows how to write. We learn. I'm still learning. Like I was in academia for 10 plus years, so I only knew how to write papers. I had to relearn when I went to the policy space. I didn't just fly just because I have a PhD. No, I struggled for 2 years just to get an opinion piece out. Why? Because in academia, you have to write about things that are not even interesting. You can just say something happened in 1945 and use a very good theory and theorize and run around it. And in the police space, they don't do that. They focus on current issues. What can we do? They want practical recommendations and all that. So you work on practical issues. So what I would say, if you know any organizations that are producing blogs, don't, even the Daily Maverick, write to them. Tell them I have an issue. Don't sit back. You can write about anything and everything as long as it's legal. You know, and last one on AI. AI is here. AI is not going anywhere. And I know that's why even in my institute, we work on the governance question. It's much bigger. The other day, we just had a policy dialogue, and I just realized, like in the case on the African continent, unlike other countries elsewhere, they didn't even allow the AI to step into their territory, if I might use that. Like China, they did not allow. They had to bring their experts to read through it, go to the behind in the kitchen. What are they adding? What ingredient? What infrastructure? Do we have control before they allowed anyone? But right now in Africa, it's already in our bedrooms. That is when the government is trying to say, what can we do? What can we do? Even the ethical questions, I realize they're the least. They're the least of concern. The infrastructure is the biggest. Because if you don't have control over the infrastructure, and I'm speaking to you people, these are the questions you need to raise now. This lady from University of Cape Town really opened my eyes. Even me as a researcher, I was like, my goodness, we need to have these conversations. It's what, even the one that was withdrawn, I think we were having a discussion around that. I realized we are trying to scrutinize the food that is already on the table. We didn't scrutinize the ingredients or the market where, or the farmer. So other countries are even looking at the farmer. What kind of spray did the farmer use? We are looking at, oh, it doesn't have too much salt. Because tell me, this is one of the things. Sorry, just the last one. So just to throw this out there, like the AI policy that was withdrawn. What if it was AI written, but the citations were correct? Would it make it right? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there was one question for me. Yeah, then thanks for this question, because this is something that somewhere, somehow, there is this wrong view that if you are employed at DECO, you need to have you must be in politics, or you must be politically connected. That is not true. I can tell you about myself. I mean, I told you my journey. When I went for an interview, I was here. I went to Pretoria. It was my first time in Pretoria. I got lost because I took a taxi. I got lost. I didn't even know where the building was. I didn't know anybody there. I was interviewed. I was called again for competence assessment, and that's how I was recruited. And of course, we do have political appointees and career diplomats. I'm a career diplomat. Political appointees, I mean, they are not even 5% of the entire department, because those are ambassadors. And the ambassadors are appointed by the president as per constitution. But the rest of the staff, they go through a recruitment process. For graduates, we have a cadet program that is open to all South Africans. You apply, Fortunately, I am with one of the cadets, Mr. Masinga. Can you please stand up? I don't want to put you on the spot, Chief. Yeah. He's one of our cadets, and I'm very proud of him because I was privileged to be part of the recruitment panel that interviewed him. I can tell you he was one of the best candidates. You saw when he responded to the question that was posed. So, and the group that we have currently, I mean, it's one of the best in South Africa. It's one of the best. And that's what I had to make sure that we get the best, not because they know anybody, but based on merit. So don't be discouraged and think that, no, I won't even bother myself to apply. Do apply. The majority of DECO employees are career diplomats. It's just the tiny minority that is appointed by the president as political appointees. Thank you.
Okay, so we all know, because we all use social media, that you have essentially 30 seconds to capture someone's attention, right? So in my case, the how's it really helps. I came up with a tagline where basically I was welcoming you and inviting you in. So that's number one. But I don't think that's necessarily practical. Like, not everybody's going to come up with a fun tagline. So I think what I did was to identify what was missing from social media. Everybody does clothes, everybody does parties, reviews, whatever you want to do it. Mine was to say, and this came from a frustration at home, why aren't young people engaging in politics? And what is it about politics that is not making them engaged? And the answer to that was, for me personally, was verbose language that is isolating. This idea that sometimes traditional media doesn't give context. So they anticipate that whatever happened in Iran in 1948, everybody knows, right? So I found a gap in that if I speak simply about topics that are relevant to the youth. So for example, if I use what's happening with the PIC this past week, I really want to talk about it, but how many young people have pensions? Do you know what I mean? This is something that's rooted in a pension situation. So I'm still trying to find a way to make it relatable. And so if you're going to jump onto social media, there has to be an element of finding a way to be relatable, but also being very much authentic to yourself. You're not going to do it by copying me. I'm being very frank about that. You have to find your angle on how you are going to capture an audience, and that might be, for example, telling news in your language. There's that's missing. We don't hear these conversations in Xhosa or Zulu. So finding an angle where you are essentially unique in some format. I also just wanted to answer two questions very quickly. I'm sorry. To the young gentleman who asked about where to publish, please use Substack so long to hone your skills on writing. That's where people can possibly find your work. There's a lot of intellectuals on Substack who are combing through things. That could be an opportunity for you whilst you do what also has been advised by the panel. And then to the lady who asked about how can you enter, you're passionate about international relations and how can you enter policy and so on and so forth. Please don't just look at DERCO as your way into accessing policy and becoming a change maker. Like I'm saying, with content creation, I've sat with the German foreign minister, but I've also, been with UNESCO for World Press Freedom Day, advising on policy and how can the press reach young people. It's not always going to be linear, and I think we have to get into the habit of not following a linear way of getting to these jobs. Find a way to get an internship at UNESCO. Find a way, use LinkedIn as well. These old people are on LinkedIn, guys. These old people are on LinkedIn. And when I was speaking to the DG of UNESCO, the first thing she said to me is, I couldn't find your LinkedIn page. I'm Jax, I'm everywhere. But the one place where she is a app that I thought was inconsequential. So I know it's very daunting to try and find a job on LinkedIn, but I always say it could just be that one day that she decided to open that message or he decided to open that message, and it could be that day that changes your life. So I've also tried to apply for a job at DERCO. I echo your sentiments that it's more difficult than it is easy. So try and find another avenue.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Manyane has a clap back about something over there, just observing her smile. But I'm going to open up a final round of questions, and the same rules apply. So colleagues, you're going to have to work with me. There's a lot of hands, and we're going to be out of time very soon. But remember what I said, the speakers are going to still be around for you to engage. So if I do not pick your hand, don't be mad. We're still going to engage after. So again, the males, I want to start with the males. I see there's a hand up. There's a hand up. The brother then needs a mic. A lot of people are asking, don't worry.
One, two. Thank you.
Please may you stand so we're able to see you.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous. My name is Alwande Khoza. I'm a first year student at the University of Johannesburg. I'm doing Bachelor of Arts, majoring in Geography, Psychology, English, and yeah. Yeah, yeah. And my question is for Amahle Imvelo Jatwa. As someone with the information about the humanities field, how do we change the narrative of the humanities stream being for people who are less smarter? Because it all starts at high school where we choose career paths and they say, oh, you don't know maths, oh, you are less smart, so you go to humanities. How do we change the narrative and make parents become more supportive to their kids who, because there are people who are smarter in the field of humanities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a sister wearing, I'll come back. There's a sister wearing pink at the back.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shanae. I'm doing my honors here at WITS. And my question really is to any one of the panel members. Sorry. With the unemployment crisis, right, and wanting to position yourself well within the market, how does one upskill themselves? Our humanities degrees requires you to do your master's, your PhD, right? So how do you upskill through your furthering your studies or short courses while making sure that you do not become too overqualified? Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia, may I ask you to please address that one? And then I'll come back. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Husna Babilia Maswangangi, a two-time graduate from Stellenbosch University. And my question really is to the general panel, right? So LinkedIn has a lot of job posts, let me just say that, and one can have a lot of application fatigue, just being bombarded by all the said opportunities there. So I want to ask the panelists, how is it possible really to get a job from LinkedIn? Because sometimes I feel like LinkedIn is not a real place. It's just there. And I heard a phrase that says LinkedIn is the new Instagram and Instagram is the new LinkedIn. So how do you then position yourself to be able to, get a job from LinkedIn? And just how does one make it through with regards to applying to these places? And also in the rise, obviously, of AI and sending these emails, obviously the recruitment spaces are going to get 500 emails. Will my CV be actually looked at? So what do you guys make of that? Thank you so much.
AI is not a real place. Raymond, that one is for you. I feel obligated to take the hands over this side because they've literally had their hands up for 5 minutes straight. So please, 1 minute, not more than a minute. I'll start with you, and then you. And then we're closing, unfortunately, this round.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Noah Leila, and I am from the University of Johannesburg. I'm doing my second year in Bachelor's of Arts, majoring in politics and strategic communication. I did a bit of research about SAIIA, and my question is based on the organizational culture and the future of the organization, whereby I want to know how the SAIA adapts its programs for preparing young professionals for a shifting and unpredictable global world order. And then I also want to know, what is your favorite part about working at the intersection of diplomacy, research, and public outreach?
Thank you. Thank you very much, sister. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Posetu Makutulela. Everyone's saying the academic background. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Legal Studies, and honors in Political Science, and I'm now doing my LLB here at WITS. And I've been with the YPC SIA for quite a while, aging out. Um, and Sabia as well for a couple of years. So like I'm making the parallels, and I feel like I'm where a lot of people are, see familiar faces, getting more and more qualifications, possibly getting overqualified, being in the same rooms and still being at a place where you don't know the specific skills we're supposed to get. I think Dr. Aita Okon mentioned the data points that she says are really useful for humanities grads to get, but I just want to hear more from the panel. And I also, what our diplomat said today about adaptability. We're not even getting our foot in the door. We're not even getting interviews. At some point, and you're doing these things from scratch every single day. And then you see like 500 at the top. You've applied 500 times to things. So I guess my question would be, what are the things, because we're getting filtered out even by AI systems. So it's like, what are the things besides, oh, put keywords in the ad, oh, put the things that are results for things that you're doing all the things. So what are like the most concrete things that you could do to prove your skills on the CVs and the cover letters themselves, besides what's taken from the ad? What are like the actual data points, like fine Excel, but in a humanities sense? Because if you say CS, it's Power BI, it's certain things, but in a humanity sense, what are the softwares or things or hard skills we're supposed to be working with?
Thank you. Thank you very much. There you go. Just
Good evening, everyone. I am Nomthandaza Mabuza, and I am a first-year Bachelor of Political Science, intending to specialize in both politics and international relations at the most wonderful university in South Africa, the University of Pretoria. And And my question, I'd like to address it to Ms. Cynthia Chigwenya, I hope I pronounced that properly, and Mr. Raymond Matlala. I think both of you work quite closely with youth. So my question is, how do we get youth involved at a ground level? And when I'm talking about at a ground level, I'm talking about youth from Emakaya, rural areas. How do we get those youth? Because I come from a small town. I want to have my voice out there. I have a lot to say, right? There are many learners like me who they don't have agencies to go to. There's nothing in Denelton for me to have my voice out there. If you look at most conventions or things for youth leaders who want to have their voice out there, or youth who want to have their voices out there, it's what have you done before? What have I done before? Because I don't have the resource to have done something before. So how do you, as people who are trying to engage youth, how do you propose that we meet the youth, we groom them in order to be recognized, in order to have their voices heard? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you all for such wonderful interventions and questions and views. I think maybe to start with the question that was posed here, I think that's a call to action to everybody. I think we've heard this question emerge 2 times about how do we translate these skills to be employable. And I think with each person that's sitting in this panel and some of the people in this room, it's a call to action. How do we assist our young people with actually knowing how to translate this into paper so that they're able to market themselves well for the workplace? So I really do appreciate that question you posed. I think I will request Elizabeth to begin first on the question of SAIA's organizational culture and the intersects. And then I'll go back to the panel. If you had a specific question asked to you, please do answer that. And then follow with a parting shot. What is it that's a final word from you? If there wasn't any specific question you are responding to, you can just go straight to the parting shot. Again, please, can we try to keep it to about 2-3 minutes each? Thanks.
I actually do want to make a couple of additional points. And I think we all know that it's difficult out there. Okay, it is difficult out there. I think, that doesn't take anything away from everything that you've heard today, but we know that the environment and the landscape is such that it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult in South Africa economically. And on top of that, you have the significant technological changes that are also impacting. And so that's the context. So there are no, to your point, there are no silver, it's not about, do you get the correct algorithm and then it will all work. That's what they want us to think, the artificial intelligence people. But the reality is it isn't. So just a couple of points before I answer the question about SAIIA. I think exploring some of the points that others made around how do you get a foot in the door. Being part of the YPC and the opportunities, the Youth Policy Committee, the Youth Policy Committee here at SAIIA, which creates also opportunities for you to meet people in different sectors, to meet people, and maybe next time we need to have people from the municipality, from Joburg. We on one of our projects are working with people at province and city on the environment, on clean air issues. It's about being exposed to those opportunities. So you make the connections. Let nobody tell you that connections and networks are not important. I would put a caveat there that networks are a problem or connections are a problem when they're not backed up by merit. Okay. But show go in there confidently, do your homework. Don't send an email that has the wrong name of the organization. I also respond in the same way. I say, let them wait a little bit. Okay, so all of those things. But I know it's not easy. Okay, it's not easy, and we would be fooling anybody to say that. I also want to make another point. Sorry, Luandana, you're probably going to tell me to shut up. But the other point I want to make is there is an interesting, you may be familiar with this author, Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote, among other things, The Tipping Point and the Outliers. He made a really interesting point in one of those books. I can't remember which one now. He said he tells the story of this really, really bright guy who could do all sorts of astronomical calculations about the solar system and whatever. And all he managed to do in his life was to go on quiz shows. So he was very bright, but had none of the social skills, the ability to work, the ability to engage with others, etc., etc. So it's not only what you have up here, but it's also your ability to operate in society. Right, I know. Okay, so on SAIIA, what is our organizational culture? So let me take a step back. I mean, I think for all institutions like SAIIA, for all think tanks, I don't know who asked the question. I couldn't see, the lights were in my eye. Oh, was it over here? Okay. For all organizations like SAIIA at the moment, this is again a moment of significant reflection and repositioning. We're currently at the Institute asking questions about how a research organization like SAIIA should be dealing with artificial intelligence. How do we tell the narrative about the continued importance of having analytical skills and the fact that Mr. Claude can't tell you everything, okay, and that in fact he doesn't, it's the context, it's the nuance, etc., etc. It's also about how we are in touch with realities on the ground, and we try to do that through the way in which we engage with young people. And this this gathering is also useful for us in terms of also making sure that us folks are also in touch with what young people are thinking and experiencing, and what that means for a think tank such as SAIIA. I think organizationally we're probably, I'd like to think we're a fun place to work at. We're fairly open. We want to engage. We want to learn. We want to build partnerships also outside the organization, and that I think creates tremendous opportunities for anybody working here to be exposed, to travel. We've had some of our interns, a part of our KAS-SAIIA scholars, traveling and accompanying some of our program heads or researchers on research trips and so on. So, I mean, you're asking the wrong person. I'm going to tell you that SAIIA is a great place. I've been here for a long time, and I've enjoyed most of the time. It's never boring. But it's a moment of, I think, reflection for all of us, and we don't necessarily have everything mapped out. But we have to, we figure it out, speaking to people, engaging, and testing things. And that's also important. Experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment.
Thank you. You can't exactly grab the mic from your boss now, can you? I think if I were to give you a very practical answer to that question, is that working at SAIIA, but also just in an environment such as SAIIA, is a space where you need to be amenable to a lot of things. Sometimes you are an events coordinator because we have to plan an event. Sometimes you are working with the comms department. Sometimes you are engaging with students. Sometimes you're in a holding room with the minister. Sometimes it's just an environment where you literally get to experience the very intersect that you were alluding to. Sometimes you're working at local government level, helping them with the strategy. Sometimes you're receiving a German foreign minister at the institute. It's a whole lot of different things. And from a skills perspective, it means that you need to be open to learning and growing and not want to fixate on that one thing that you're good at. So that's where this space becomes very valuable. So I just wanted to give you that practical experience. But Cynthia, can I come back to you in about 2 to 3 minutes?
Thanks for bringing me in, Leander. The question that I got was around making sure that you're not overqualified. And when I started, I said I'm one of the younger people on the panel. So I'll leave that to those who have had a number of years. I see 2, 3 PhDs here to tell us what does it look like when someone is overqualified. But the 2 questions that I'll respond to is the first one on, can people get jobs on LinkedIn? And one of the questions that I asked Amahle when I met her was like, fantastic work on Instagram. We don't see you on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn profile that has about 34,000 followers, and it's something that I've built over the years. The current job that I'm doing at the Club of Rome was a job that I actually got from LinkedIn. The manager at the Club of Rome wrote a message and said, we're putting together a team of young people who should be consulting on a United Nations project on youth participation in policymaking. We've seen what you have been doing over the years on LinkedIn and would like to interview you for the role. And that's how I ended up with the position that I am. So it's not necessarily just being on LinkedIn, it's how do you become an authority on LinkedIn besides just going there to apply for jobs? Can you analyze what is happening in international relations without you needing to go there to seek for employment or opportunities? What are you also giving to LinkedIn and putting out there so that when there's an opportunity that relates to BRICS, to youth participation, to conflict engagement and mediation, you come up as an authority when it comes to that. So that's the quick one on getting a job online. The last question, which I'll respond to, was one specifically directed at me, and it was around policymaking has become very elitist. Not everyone has got a room at that space at the table. And I've heard some people saying, if there's no seat at the table, bring your own chair. But sometimes that doesn't happen because of the either privileges or even the inequalities that we have in terms of education, in terms of trainings, in terms of skills. But we also need to stop looking at rural areas or young people living in remote areas as disadvantaged or as disempowered. We've talked about digital economies and content creation. How do we get those stories to be told on the platforms that we're on? That's the first one. But also for majority of us who are in this room, KAS-SAIIA Careers over the holidays. We actually go to the rural homes. So we should stop waiting for the government to come into the rural homes or into the rural areas and amplify some of the development challenges that we have. But with your phone, when you go home in December, it's not just social media. Look at me, I'm in the village, but also what issues are you seeing and identifying? Can you identify authorities that operate there, traditional authorities, chiefs? How can they be a part of the development conversations that we're having? And then last, I think final parting short would be, if humanities didn't matter, the tech geeks would have their conferences online. They still meet in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick one. Yes, it's important to improve your skills. The job market now is very competitive. If I can tell you, with the current cadet program that the intake, we had about 2,000 applications and we only had 25 slots. So you can imagine. So that means you need to at least have some skills that will give you an edge. One of those are language skills. If you are in an international relations space, it's important to learn one of the international languages. In fact, one of the things that I'm still kicking myself for not doing when I was here was to study, to do a language, especially French. And I ended up serving in 2 French-speaking countries, and I struggled. So for my sins, because I should have thought about it. And even if you want to apply to either UN or AU, they tell you that the requirement is at least 2 of the UN or AU working languages. So you must consider doing that. And now there are even apps, there's Duolingo that you can do to supplement whatever. I'm on Duolingo even now, I'm doing French, if I can tell you. So I keep trying to improve my French, because the likelihood is that I'm going to go to another French speaking country, because when they look at my CV, they always think that I can speak French fluently when I'm still intermediate. So that is important. And also, DERCO is not alpha and omega. Don't only just wait at the bus stop waiting for DERCO bus to come. There are other departments like your DTIC. They do have international relations sections. So you must be on the lookout. They do advertise, and I know some of the people who went through those departments and then later on joined DERCO. Or they went through, especially when it comes to organizations. I mean, I think we have a problem as South Africans of being in a comfort zone. We don't want to explore and go out there. The AU and UN and SADC, they do advertise posts, but there are very few South Africans that are applying, and international relations students in particular. Look out, go to their websites, check those posts. In fact, South Africa is among the countries that have not been taking its quotas of jobs in both SADC and the AU. So you should, it will also help if you apply directly, and then you at least there are those quotas that we need to fill, and we have not filled them for quite a number of years now. So don't only look for DERCO or internally. Internationally, there are also opportunities.
Go ahead. Okay. Thank you. I had 2 direct questions. The first one was about, is it possible to get a job on LinkedIn? And the answer is yes. The job that I held before the current one, it was through LinkedIn. So it's possible. You just need to sometimes exercise a little bit of patience. And the second question was around disadvantaged youth. It's difficult. I must be honest with you. It's a difficult thing. But what we've done from KAS-SAIIA side is we've launched a couple of programs. We're working with the traditional leaderships now. To every year we do a career expo with the traditional leadership. And when we do it per province. And when we do it, we then leave the province. For example, in the Northwest, the Kosi Mabi Foundation is now working on that. In the Eastern Cape, Nkosi Joy Foundation is working on that. So that's what we do. And we leave them to, we still support them and they can continue doing it in the other years. And the other thing is, of course, the university chapters. Because we can't reach those rural areas in person, we then hope that the university chapters, through the university students that come from those areas, would be able to reach them slightly. And we've also introduced something called the Ambassador Program, the SAIIA Ambassador Program, which we are yet to launch. We use those ambassadors that have got social capital in those areas where we necessarily don't exist. So it's been difficult, and it's a difficult exercise because most of the things revolved around urban areas. Apologies. And my parting shots is the lady who asked about publications is collaborate with other scholars, your supervisor or your mentor, that as a start. And the question was, how do we start? And I know it's difficult, and don't aim for high impact research papers, start small and then grow subsequently. All my papers that I've published with other collaborators. I don't have a paper that I've published as a single author. So collaborate, and you'll get there. And the one issue that also was asked is how do you present yourself in the CV? And for example, if you're in research and you do a short course on SPSS or Atlas TI, and you present that as a skill, that already gives you a competitive edge because then you can still do research and do analytics, analyze data using quantitative data, using SPSS, or and those are some of the things that in my early years of research I learned, and they gave me that competitive advantage. Don't ask me about it now. It's been 10 years, so I don't know them anymore. And I think to a point, and I don't want to repeat it, is don't only look domestically, look globally. There's a lot of global opportunities, but not scams. So be cautious about getting into scams. But there's a lot of global opportunities there. AU, SADC, and UN, they actually have a lot of posting that they have. Thank you.
So my question was, how do we change the narrative about humanities? I'm going to give you the PR answer first, which is the only way we're going to change the narrative about humanities is by being ambitious and taking up positions of power. That's probably what is the acceptable answer for this. But I think I'm a more practical person, and number one, maybe question why you want the narrative changed, in the sense that why do you care what anyone else thinks about the degree that you're doing? If you're passionate about your degree and you're doing it for all the right reasons, what other people are saying doesn't actually matter. But now let's get it into the context of your parents and convincing your parents about whether or not you're in the right degree. You kind of have to get into a mode or a way of thinking that your parents aren't going to live this life for you. You are. That's number one. But number two, we can also change the narrative with facts. A quick Google search I did whilst everybody was asking questions was to search how many world leaders and CEOs have done BA degrees. So if we're going to change the narrative, let's do it with facts. Bob Iggers, the CEO of Disney, BA. Barack Obama, BA. Susan Wojcik, former CEO of YouTube, BA. Carly Fiorina, she's the former CEO of Hewlett Packard, BA. Those are different jobs if you look at what they do. You've got one in digital with YouTube. You've got a production company in the sense that it produces goods. You've got a former world leader and so on and so forth. So I think we need to get into the habit of, number one, not always trying to defend why we are doing things if we know why we're doing them, right? You're not necessarily going to change the narrative of our parents. When I first came to Wits, the reason I dropped out is because my mom chose all my subjects for me. She had that idea that like a BA and studying politics and philosophy was not going to get me anywhere really. And only by dropping out and going to UNISA and, you know, and that's also another thing. Sorry, I know I'm speaking a lot of things, but our judgment of different universities also adds to this narrative, right? You hear how I speak, you think I've been to the best universities. I come from UNISA. The reason I can explain things the way I do on social media is because I had to teach myself through UNISA. So I think let's just get into the habit of also not living our lives because of what other people have said, right? And then my parting little message for everybody here, I really hope you guys have registered to vote. All the issues that you speak of today are a systemic issue based on who is leading and guiding this country. And before you say to me, I don't know who to vote for, this is not a rally, I promise. Before you say to me, I don't know who to vote for, you're not going to know until you find out and you research, particularly when we're looking at local elections. Most of you are politics students, right? So you understand that local elections are about the public goods that are outside of your house. So when you are voting, it's not going to be a group project. You are not going to find the best political party. You're going to find the one that's closest to your ideas and your ideologies and what you stand for. And you're going to vote in that manner. The only way we're going to change South Africa is quite literally by investing in South Africa. And the first and easiest way to do it is by casting our vote. We know what's wrong. What can we now do to change it? Thank you.
In terms of, can you get a job on LinkedIn? Yes, you can. Please just keep applying. And I don't want you, there is also something on LinkedIn. People will tell you, add this phrase, add that phrase, add that phrase. I don't believe in those things. Do you believe you can get a job? Let's start from there. Do you believe that you have, there is space for you in this universe? If you don't believe, just stop. Don't even bother to apply. Because you have to know there is something for you out there. Some of us is just our beliefs. And I said, like, I really am at a point where I know education can take you far. And I can also tell you this, our degrees are nice, but they can be the stumbling block. You might start to think that just because I will say, I'm Dr. Margaret, the doors will open. No. That's why if you have heard these stories on the street, some people who are less learned are employing people who are learned. C students end up employing A students. Have you heard it? I'm not sure if it happens in this country, but it happens elsewhere where I come from. So let not your degree be a stumbling block that you think, no, when I mention I'm a BA, I was at Wits, it gives me an edge. The door should just open like a slide door and I'm walking in. No, this is life. I'll tell you, this is life. You will negotiate for life. You will negotiate with your friends who are stealing, who are seated with you here. You have to negotiate. So you have to learn those skills. How? It's about yourself. How do you speak? What is your attitude? Are you a teamwork? Work on those things as well. Please do. Nobody will teach you. No single university will teach you. You have to learn. Instead of staying on Instagram, sorry. No, Instagram is good. You know, sometimes you go online and you know those gisty stories and someone will read 3,000 comments. So that means you have time, but you want to, you use the time wrongly. What if you use, if there is anything I've done, and why I'm talking about this, for the last 5 years, every day, even after this, without fail, I take 2 hours to learn about myself. Without fail. There is even a time when I started the journey, I would take 9 hours. Ask me where I got 9 hours. When I'll get home around 4, I'll just take my supper and I go on YouTube. There is a lot of good things on YouTube. Even the interviews we are talking about. Go, there are a lot of people who are teaching many things. You are going to those places where people say I was married, I was beaten 5 times. Leave those things. No, I mean, why are you listening to those kind of things? Let them be beaten. Like, why are you staying there? And I'm not saying domestic violence is okay. Please don't get me wrong, but I'm saying there's some valuable information on YouTube. You can listen to that. I listened to it to Okay, sorry, madam, that was hard. But there's a lot. People who are teaching CV writing, people who are teaching, I don't know, there's just a lot of things. Please, you can use that as a school if you don't have money. So my parting shot will be believe in yourself that there is some space for you. And also just work on yourself, network like they said, talk to people, you know, and I don't know what I can say. I wish I could just employ all of you so that we don't talk. But but I can't. But I can't. So, but we can have these conversations and keep the conversation. Are you even mentoring someone?
So sorry, there's no mic, but can I invite us to actually continue this discussion during the networking
Yes.
session?
And I wasn't even speaking to her alone. I was asking everyone in the room, are you mentoring anyone? Even a matriculant as you are being mentored. Please, let's, the mentorship, let's start early. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to reiterate, domestic violence, no, no. But using social media to learn, yes, we believe in that. So I'd like to thank the panel for really an illuminating session. I really enjoyed moderating that and learning and really imparting some knowledge and sharing with you this evening. So as I hand over to the program director, I'd like to invite the panel for a group photo. And thank you very much. Rendani, over to you.
Thank you once again to our panel moderator, Luanda, and our panelists for an awe-inspiring discussion. And thank you to you all for your engagements. We are now approaching the end of the program. So I will call on Kanyisile Marubelela and Gwakanya Max to share their KAS-SAIIA reflections. Please help me welcome them.
Good evening, everyone. I am so delighted to see all the YPC members that are here. I just want to say thank you so much for supporting us and also just being here. When they asked us to speak about reflections on KAS-SAIIA, I had so many things to think about because this has honestly been a life-changing internship scholarship for me. Having to work with my mentor, Donovan Fullard, and working with different embassies, getting to gain new insights on not only just how to engage with stakeholders, but to be able to sit with the YPC members as well and hear from them and understand where they come from has been just very impactful for me. One thing I would say is important is having a teachable spirit. Being here, that has been one thing that I have learned. I think that it's important to note that as much as you have your accolades, your character sustains the longevity of your career. And so being able to be around people who are not only filled with integrity, but are just transparent and are able to tell us, okay, this is what you need help with. That has been, I think, the most rewarding thing for me. And so, yeah, I do want to thank KAS and SAIIA for providing this opportunity. Applications are open, so please do apply. It closes, I think, 1st of September. And yeah, inform yourself and be able to enter spaces knowing that as much as you are new there, so are other people. Learn to work with other people and learn to also just be honest with yourself, be self-aware. And so I think, yeah, that's the one key takeaway I got from this experience, being teachable. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gwakanya Max, and I am part of the Futures program, specifically within SAIA, based in Cape Town, which is where I'm doing my master's currently. I share the same sentiments as my colleague, Ukanyisile, that this internship and really this experience, which has put us in the spaces that we've spoken about today, the spaces where we're able to actionize the things that we learn in our classrooms and seminars, where theory can actually be translated into practice, where we realize that, oh, that thing I learned in the lecture doesn't actually work the same way here in real life, or vice versa. It's been such an incredible experience and truly transformative for me personally, in the sense that I have learned new things that I am deeply passionate about that I otherwise would not have been exposed to outside of this internship. So I'm really thankful to KAS and SAIIA for this wonderful moment that we're able to enjoy together, where not only are we learning and growing as young professionals, but we're also growing deeply in relationship with one another, where the richness of the relationships you are exposed to actually hold more weight than anything else. And so, like Kanye said, in your hands is information around the scholarship, around the internship. And we heard today, we need to apply ourselves. We need not be afraid or disqualify ourselves. I think some of us are experiencing fatigue around applications, which is completely understandable. But often that can be the reason we disqualify ourselves before even trying. I know for myself, I did not in a million years think that I would qualify to be a KAS-SAIIA intern. And here I am. And that's just a result of believing in yourself, as we heard, and really trusting that if it's for you, it's for you. But it's never going to be unless you apply yourself and do it afraid anyway. So that's my encouragement to all of us here today.
Thank you, Kanyisile and Wakanya, for your reflections. As we conclude today's event, I have the honor of offering a few words of thanks. Today's discussions have been both insightful and inspiring and would have not been made possible without the contributions of individuals and organizations. So on behalf of SAIIA and KAS, I would like to thank our exhibitors, our speakers, staff members, and more importantly, the KAS-SAIIA scholars for their contributions in terms of making this event a success. So let's just give them a round of applause. Can I please have the KAS-SAIIA scholars come to the front to hand over the speaker gifts, and then we'll break out for a light dinner. Thank you.